to the Wednesday, February 19th edition of the Clemson Dubcast. The news still fresh of the 2021 scheduled showdown between Clemson and Georgia. Wow. How do you not get pumped up just hearing that? A job well done by Dan Radakovich and Greg McGarity at Georgia and all the other folks who had a hand in that. At TigerIllustrated.com, Paul Strelo and I have some analysis of what it means, what to look forward to, also the status of these two programs as two recruiting powerhouses. Man, how much NFL talent is going to be on the field that day at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte? Can't wait. Title sponsor of the podcast since the very day we began, Parham Smith and Archingham Law Firm in downtown Greenville. I've known Blake Smith for a long time. I guess about 10 or 12 years ago, he helped me with a situation involving some possible medical malpractice, gave me some great advice, and it wasn't just preferential treatment. That's how he and his staff, which includes Brooke Archinhold, handle every case. They are founded on a dedication to helping injured individuals throughout South Carolina. Free consultations. Phone number 864-990-4581 or online at parhamlaw.com, P-A-R-H-A-M law.com. Another loyal supporter of the Dubcast is Blackacre Law Firm in Greenville, a subsidiary of Parham Smith and Archinhold. Blackacre helps South Carolina residents achieve their dreams of home ownership by providing experienced professional representation for real estate closings. Attention to detail is crucial in real estate law. Blackacre is committed to making sure nothing gets by them preparing residential or commercial closings. Blackacre also offers estate planning services for their clients in the Greenville area. Find out more about Blackacre at 864-326-3507. Okay, catching up with Brad Brownell. The lack of a midweek game this week gave him some time to sit down and reflect and basically give his take on where things stand now and where things are headed in the future. Had a really enjoyable chat with him in his office earlier this week, so thank him for his time. And here we go. Enjoy. All right, Coach. How you doing? You got your week off, I guess. I guess you're taking vacation and just enjoying life, playing some golf.
Yeah, no, none of that. But better, obviously, after the great week last week and the big win over Louisville. Thought that was about as well as our team could play, and so really proud of our players and happy for those guys. It's been a great group that's worked extremely hard all year and had to deal with some adversity, but they've had tremendous attitudes and been very coachable, and we've just kind of hung in there and keep trying to find ways to play and play well, and so just Saturday was a really nice experience. Unfortunately, it was our first kind of Saturday home game with students, and a little late in the year, but it again showed what Little John is like when it's full and students are rowdy and we're playing well. It's a tremendous atmosphere, a great game experience, and a lot of fun. Now this week we've given ourselves a couple extra days. Guys got to give them 2 days off this week because we had 3 games last week, no days off. So good in some ways to let a couple guys kind of heal up. Clyde, I think, probably needed an extra day or 2 this week. Would be good for him. And Amir just battling back from what he's dealt with. Actually, Hunter Tyson's been a little sick this week. But then we got to get locked in here on Wednesday. We'll practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and try to get ready for Boston College.
I was joking about the week vacation thing. It's just interesting compared to football. There's so much structure with a football coach's schedule. It's Sunday to Saturday, right, and then you know exactly what you're doing every day, with the exception of a Thursday or Friday game or a bowl game. Whereas you guys are all over the place. I'm just curious, how much of a challenge it is to develop a consistent sort of routine when the schedule is anything but consistent.
It can be. There's some things that you certainly do to provide consistency. And get your guys organized in terms of preparation, watching video, and introducing the other team, before a practice, and here's what we do at the beginning when we first introduce them. We call it 3 sets of 3, where we go through their 9 favorite actions, and we kind of begin to game plan how we're going to guard those, and then we kind of start our practice and do things. And so and then we have routines for game day. But the problem or the challenge in basketball is nothing's the same. Sometimes you have a week like this week for us. Sometimes you have 48, 36 hours. Most of the time you probably have 72 between games. And so it isn't the same. And, maybe you've played the night before and then you have 48 hours. What are you doing the next day? How much work are you giving the guys that played? How much work are you giving the guys that didn't play much? And so there's different things and different scenarios that you work through. But, as best you can, you try to kind of eyeball it each week, set out a weekly agenda. That's kind of what I do, or plan, and then we kind of act accordingly.
What's your routine after a game, home compared to road? Like, what are you doing, I guess, a road game from the moment you get on the bus or plane to the moment you get back, and then waking up the next morning, starting your day?
Yeah, a lot of times a lot of times after a home game, especially when things go well, I'll go spend some time with some boosters and friends and try to enjoy that evening if I can a little bit. Decompress a little. Oftentimes I will watch some tape of the game as well. Otherwise, I'm going to get in first thing the next morning. I'm going to get up, and that's usually really early at 6. I'm probably awake and ready to roll, and evaluating the tape further, making notes, clips to show the guys, and just trying to get all that knocked out, as quickly as possible, usually by noon the next day, so that I can quickly adjust to the next team. And if we have another game shortly thereafter, I've already got a folder from the assistant who has the scout and all the, stats and some game plan thoughts, and then practice thoughts, and then, I quickly get with that coach, and we get into the next game. If it's on the road, I watch the game on the flight back. And so I pretty much have seen our game, made some clips, and again, I may wake up the next morning early, watch the game again, go a little deeper in terms of some notes and some things that I want to tell our team, and then depending on when our next opponent is, usually by noon the next day, I'm on to the next opponent. What do we need to do, and get prepared for a meeting or practice later that afternoon.
When y'all get back at 1 or 2 in the morning, you're still getting up at?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter?
Yeah, usually. Most of the time, that's just, I tease my coaches that, you wake up 4:30 and your mind starts thinking about things, whether it was the game the night before, what you have ahead of you. It's hard to settle back down, and it's not that early all the time, obviously, but it's early, and then you just kind of, hey, if you're not going to be able to sleep, then let's get up and get something done and get on with it. And so most of the time it's grabbing your computer and watching film.
So the Pitt game was 9 o'clock start. What time did y'all get back?
I walked into my house at about 2:55 a.m.
And then you got up when?
Probably 6, and started watching film at home. Most of the time I come into the office, at 8 o'clock or 7:30 or something like that. But every once in a while, if I feel like I really need to watch kind of a bunch of different, as much film as I can in a short amount of time, I'll sometimes stay at home until about 9 or 9:30, and I can just I'll go, 3 hours of just watching film, and I can get through it and not be interrupted, and drink a cup of coffee and just kind of get a lot accomplished without having to worry about somebody coming into my office and asking me to do something else, or, I can get a lot of work done. So like that day I did that, and then I came in a little bit later, and, 9:30, and went right to the coach with the scout, which was Coach Coach Goins on Louisville, and we, got together immediately and then started formulating our plan for practice that afternoon and the day.
Is there anything you do to, I guess, to keep your frame of mind right? Sometimes you have to take a break, decompress, and to do something.
Yeah, it's funny is people may see me. I go out to lunch most days, not all the time, but at least probably 3 days a week I do. Some days I go home. I get out of my office at least for an hour in the middle of the day to just kind of, and I usually have an assistant with me, and so we have a notepad and we're talking about practice, or we're probably still working and talking basketball and what we think, what we're planning practice, or thoughts we have about the team or what we need to do. But I do feel like I need to get out of the office and kind of clear my head and just catch some fresh air sometimes, and then kind of get right back into it when you get back and usually go about 2.5 more hours, and then we have practice and that kind of stuff. So, I'm not a guy that I don't stay in the office until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I go home as practice is over. I try to go home most nights for dinner because I, see my wife and spend a little time there, especially when I had girls, young girls. I thought that was really important. And with cell phones and with computers now, you can get as much work done at home. I don't think there's any need for you to be sitting in an office, especially all our guys that have families. I want them to spend time with their wives and kids when they can and get their work done. There's an expectation of that, but they're going to do that. So I get home and, I'm going to watch more film, make more notes, maybe make a couple recruiting calls and do whatever we need to do that night.
Is it hard for you when you do go home for dinner to be present there?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes not. But, yeah, sometimes if we're not playing well or, if there's a quick turnaround, I may, it may be a little bit of a working deal, but I try to do the best I can to try to spend a little time. But, every week's different. That's why in a week that's really busy, like obviously the quick turnaround from Pitt to Louisville, there wasn't a lot of time to be doing anything but getting ready for the game. This week, a little more time, got a chance to spend a little bit more with your wife and that kind of stuff.
When your girls are younger, is it something where, I know from not to make this about me, but
yeah.
When my girls were little and I'm reading to them at night or something.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of a season and I'm thinking about, my mind's racing about something that I need to write later that night. And I'm like, damn, how come I can't focus on that?
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. Right, no, it can be very challenging. And I think the thing that people forget sometimes is, we usually travel the night before the game. So if you have a midweek game on a Wednesday, you're going Tuesday night and Wednesday night. You're not just going Wednesday night. So you've missed your family Tuesday night and Wednesday night. And so that's significant. You don't get time back. That's one of the few things that, in this world that you don't get time back. And that's a real challenge in our jobs. Dabo, I know, who's extremely busy, and because of what he has to do in terms of organizing a complete football program, and then, all the other things he gets asked to do, he's got a yearly calendar. Well, he can almost tell you on April 21st exactly what he's doing that whole day. And some of it is because he goes ahead early and plans vacation, plans a 3-day weekend, plans a Nike trip, plans he's got to plans his son's football games, because if he doesn't get it on the calendar, something's going to get put in place, just like with me, and you don't get the time back. And that's the hardest part about these jobs, is there are times when you kind of look back, man, I should have spent a little more time, or I wish I would have spent a little more time with a parent, an older parent, a child that you're raising, friends, whatever. The time is the thing that is most difficult and challenging.
The recruiting wrap-up thing they have on signing day.
Correct.
Every year. A year ago, at the last minute, people realized he was a no-show. and he was going to one of his son's,
right.
I think it was basketball games, and some people were like, man, what the heck? But
yeah.
It seems like just sort of speculate, and he made a decision, hey, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
Priority was.
At the end of the day, you know, you got to do what you think's right, and he obviously did. And, you know, I think as much as he does and as much as he's given and as much time as he gives, you can't be all things for all people all the time. And so obviously that was an important event, but family's most important. And so at times there's going to be some things that people just hopefully understand that, you know, he or I or some other coaches occasionally it just doesn't work out, or we do have other obligations and we have things that you know we're choosing to do because of what's going on in our families. And you know the hard part too is our families' lives don't stop because you're coaching basketball or coaching football. Their lives and all the problems and challenges that your kids are going through and your wife and whatever it is, that family issues. Like we had an unexpected death with my wife's aunt this week, and so she wasn't at the game, and so she, you know, we're kind of dealing with that this week while things are going on, and that's just life goes on. And sometimes people forget that with coaches and players, like the kids that we're coaching, also are dealing with more things than a lot of people that in terms of being under the microscope. And so when they have things that go on in their lives, either with their family or themselves or whatever it is, you know, they could sometimes not be in a good place. And it has nothing to do with their health or what's going on with them at that time, but it might be something that's going on in the life of a parent or a family member, and maybe that affects their play and, you know, things. So there's just a lot going on that we all know. But sometimes as fans, we forget some of that. And that's obviously another one of the big challenges in coaching.
We hear coaches preach to their players all the time, you know, don't let a loss beat you twice, 24-hour rule, whatever. But how much of a challenge is it for a coach, especially a basketball coach, with the high frequency of games, to keep from brooding over a loss, you know, to flush it and move on?
Yeah, that's challenging. You know, I'm a pretty competitive guy, and you know, I think one of the things that has become more challenging, and we talked about this with our team one time this year, was I didn't feel like the loss bothered them as much as it should. And you know, there was guys are trying to be supportive and encourage each. Hey, we're going to get them, you know, whatever, get them next time. You know, good effort, played well. And I'm like, guys, that's not what it's about. Like, we need to understand. You know, there's expectations of performance, and we didn't meet our expectations, and it's not okay. And we can't just bring it in the huddle, say together, and like put it behind us. Like, we can't put it behind us that quickly. There's lessons to be learned. If you care, you should feel bad. You should not be able to put it past you this quickly. Like, unfortunately, the lifestyle that has now been created, especially in basketball, with, and I don't want to say this is just AAU, but it is part of AAU, is you play a game at 9 o'clock, you play a game at 2 o'clock, and you play a game at 8 p.m. There's always a game. And so you kind of get numb to winning and losing. It's just let's play. And that's, you know, part of the challenge is to make sure your players understand that, like, hey, man, like, we got to play to a standard. We have to play to our, you know, what we expect of ourselves. And when we don't, we should be disappointed. We should be upset. We should be, you know, take a minute for thought and try to learn. But it should bother you. At your core as a competitor, it should bother you. And now you got to put it past you. And, you know, I think that one of the challenges as a coach in basketball is, at what point do you do that? Like, we're constantly, okay, the next day when we see our team, depending on how much time there is between the next game, how much time are we spending on learning from the last game? Are we going to show 25 clips from the last game and teach, you know, good offense, good defense, bad defense? But then also we need to introduce the next team, and we need to get into that. And so And then, maybe your team didn't compete as hard as you wanted them to. You thought physically they could compete harder. So now your next practice, are you going to try to make it a physical, tough, bone-on-bone, blockouts, loose balls, screening, screen D, all the toughest things you can think of to try to bring toughness back to your team when guys have just played a lot of minutes, they're tired, they're beat up, but you need a mentality change. But then you play again in 48 hours, or do you have to you just have to talk about it and show it and then hope that the one day before you can do a few minutes of that, and get them in a good frame of mind and get them back competing like they need to physically. As a young coach, sometimes you get angry, right? And you probably let's get back in there and we need to beat them up a little bit. They need to, as an older coach you've done it more, you're like, that's when you don't want to get beat twice. So you hopefully try to show them, you talk about it, and then you progress as you can to get your guys to understand, whether it's more some physical, whether it's decision making. What were the things that caused you not to play well? Is there something wrong with your team? Is there something wrong with the spirit of your team? Is there something wrong with a couple guys on your team who are in a bad place, and why are they in a bad place, and how do we get them out of a bad place? Did you play well and compete at a pretty high level, but the other team did too? Or maybe you executed well, but you didn't make shots that we feel like are good shots, good execution, and just, kind of one of those. So you're constantly, and I think with basketball what's hard about that is you play 30 games. And so you don't have a week in between to kind of digest it all and figure out your strategy and how do you want to change. No, you got another game in 48 hours. You got to get it done. You got to figure it out. You got to get your guys ready to go again. And, there may be travel involved and whatnot. So that part is, that part of coaching is really important. And, hopefully you get better at that as you get a little more experienced.
Sounds like you were alluding to the at Louisville, Syracuse here sequence where you were planning on having a really hard practice.
Yeah.
The next day, I guess.
Yes.
That's Sunday, and you talk with your.
Yeah.
So can you take me inside those discussions with your.
Well, we didn't play. We didn't play particularly well in the first half of the Louisville game, and some of the things we did were fine. We actually guarded Jordan Orr really well. We did some decent things. But Darius Perry, a guy who was probably the fourth guy on the report, made 5 threes. Having said that, I felt like our guys were, excuse me, we didn't fight as hard as we could have through some things. I thought we were a little in awe of the environment. When things didn't go well, I didn't feel like it took us a long time to get back centered and get in a good place where we could play. And some of that's Louisville. I mean, Louisville is really talented, really good, and when they start making shots and when some of their secondary guys start making shots, it's easy. There's a rhythm. They're playing with a lead, and you saw us play well with a lead the other day because some of our guys did it. So I wasn't really happy with how we played, and my first thought when we got back is, we need a couple of hard practices. Like, these guys need to be woken up that we got to play better, and we've got to fight. And if things don't go well, we got to find a way to make them go well. And we better come together and compete harder. And the more I watched the film again, saw some things that were more positive than I initially thought, saw some missed shots that really we should be making, that I knew it wasn't all that. And then just thinking about what our team needed in the next to get ready for Syracuse, I decided not to be quite as demanding in terms of, hey, we're going to go twice and we're going to have 2 bone-on-bone practices and we're going to get their attention. We had 1 practice. It was a good practice. It was competitive, but it was shorter. And I think we got our guys' attention by using the film, by appealing to them in a way that they understood, without having to maybe go a physical route. And they responded, and that's their credit.
If you're in the Eastern Midlands and PD area and you're in any way interested in buying and selling a home, commercial property, land, need to consider reaching out to Uptown Realty. They're based out of Sumter and run by a friend of mine, Patrick Enzer, big Clemson guy, used to cover the Tigers in a newspaper capacity, longtime supporter of Tiger Illustrated, longtime listener to the Dubcast. The home buying process should be an enjoyable experience, so let Patrick and his staff do all the heavy lifting. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 803-774-0435 or go to uptownrealtysc.com. Quite often during the week, early in the morning, I go work out in Lot 2 near the stadium, and the Abernathy Boutique Hotel, the parking lot is full. What a wonderful addition to the Clemson community. The Abernathy has become a very popular lodging spot for all the ESPN personnel who frequent this place on such a regular basis these days. Taps Bar and Cafe, a great place for some of you professors and university types to wind down after work during the week. They also have a new Dabo room that they have recently unveiled, so looking forward to seeing that. Learn more about all this at theabernathy.com. Have you adapted more this season than in most, just in terms of the youth of the team, the injuries, sort of trying to gear things to...
Yeah. It's so hard because every year takes on a life of its own, and how you plan a season in your mind, in the off season, in the spring, in the summer, and then what actually happens sometimes because of injuries, because of whatever, poor play. Maybe somebody doesn't play as well as you expect them to. That always changes things. Obviously, the Dante Grantham year, things went according to plan until he tore his ACL. Like, we had a good team. We thought we had a good team. I knew we had a really good team. I thought we could do special things. We got off to a great start, won some big close games, and you're able to ride this wave, and you're playing great basketball, and everything's kind of going according to plan, and then, boom, Dante Grantham, your best player, tears his ACL, and you figure out, make an adjustment and do the best you can and go the rest of the way. Last year, pretty quickly you kind of realized that Shelton Mitchell is just not the same kid because of his knee. And so now you're in a constant, I don't want to say struggle, but what you kind of plan for doesn't go as kind of according to plan, and you're probably a little younger, with some guys and inexperienced to where you can offset some of his play with your bench. And so you really kind of, we were kind of leaning on those older guys, and some of them didn't play quite as well. And we had I thought we held in there pretty good, and then we had all those close losses. It was tough. So my point to that is, things kind of change, you adjust. This year's been, right from the start, it's been constant adjustment. I never would have thought that, I would have thought our team would have been, if you would have probably guessed to me right now in February, I would have thought we'd be playing Clyde Trapp, Chase Hunter, John Newman probably, Jonathan Barron, Amir Sims would probably be those would be our starters if I would have had a gun to my head, in the spring of last year. And it's been anything but that, so what's been really hard is developing certainly offensive rhythm. For the first 10 games we just played with Al as our only point guard. Nick didn't get his waiver. Clyde is out with the ACL tear. And so you got a freshman guard who's never played a game, and you really don't have anybody to sub him for. And so you're playing Chase Hunter as a backup one and Curran Scott a little bit, and neither one of those guys are point guards at all, really. And so you're just kind of trying to figure out how to play and help those guys. Some of the things that worked for us overseas were not as good for us when we came back and played here because of the spacing. And we thought maybe some guys would be able to do a little more driving and have a little more success, and they could in some of the games with the shot clock. Most teams pressed you. It opened the court just a little bit more in the half court, and so we were able to kind of get inside. John Newman and Tevin Mack were able to kind of drive a little more and make a few more plays off the bounce. Then we kind of got back over here, and as we started playing a little bit better players, we kind of realized, man, it's not going that way for us. And so how do we adjust? And we're still playing with a young freshman who's we like, but is made some late game errors too. And so we've kind of had to adjust. Getting Clyde back, what does that mean? Chase playing periodically. Is he in? Is he out? You don't really know. His foot is bothering him. We need to sit him another 2 weeks and we'll try again. It's just there's no rhythm. Jonathan Bear comes back for 2 games and unfortunately, gets hurt again and is out. So that whole first semester was really, really hard because you're trying to, help your guys and sometimes you don't know exactly who's going to be out there and how they're going to be able to, perform because some of them are performing not 100% healthy. And I think we made some adjustments, did a better job coaching. Around Christmas time, came up with some things that we thought could help our team. I think you saw that a little bit right away, and I think we surprised NC State and Duke and some things that hadn't been on film that caused them problems. Obviously, then teams see your film, they adjust, and it makes it harder. And now you're back to hey, your players have got to be able to execute. They got to be able to make plays. We probably don't have anybody on our team that we can really just kind of give them the ball and they can go create a shot for us kind of on their own and feel pretty good about it like Marquise Reed kind of has the last couple years. And so we've got to really execute. This team has to execute at a high level. And if we don't, we struggle. We're still tweaking things and trying to come up with little wrinkles and packages to help our guys on offense, to be able to score because scoring at this level oftentimes can be challenging. And, I think defensively we've been pretty good most of the year, not great all the time. It's hard. We don't have a shot blocker. And so we kind of lost that rim protection. But in terms of game planning and in terms of guys buying in and doing what we're trying to do, our guys have done a great job. And we've had to make a few adjustments through that with, who's playing and what their strengths are. But so it's a long, long-winded answer of, yes, this has been way more challenging, and we've done a lot more changes within the season than some other years.
Is my understanding right that this sort of adjustment you made going into NC State was more spacing and cutting?
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's actually an adaptation off of something that we saw that the Israel team ran against us. And so we've taken a little action that they used against us, and now we're trying to kind of create a little bit of an offense with it. And it involves our post players kind of going up and down and our guards being spaced and playing out of it. And really one of the big keys is more passing and less dribbling because we don't really have breakdown dribble guys. And so as you kind of are coaching, and again, you're seeing that, hey, we don't have as many guys that can just beat their guy off the dribble. We're going to have to do this more through the pass and figure out other ways that's what we kind of settled on, and that's what I kind of spent Christmas break for me was watching film and figuring that out.
So you were going back and looking at Israel?
Yeah, I was going back and watching. Our games from Italy, and trying to see things that we did over there, and is there something that we could work within our own offensive schemes, or something that we could come back to that we needed, or And then as I was watching, I kind of saw this action that I liked that Israel ran, and so then I kind of came into the office and said, "Hey guys, I got something I want us to try. Here's what I think can really help us a little bit. I know we can use this in a way to, at least for a couple of weeks, to help us maybe get some easier baskets," and that worked. And then now we've kind of had to adjust again because teams have adjusted to what we're doing. Now we got to try to stay one step ahead.
Teams playing zone sort of jumps that up a little bit. Is that right?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you can't run all that same stuff against the zone. We've used it in certain games, but other games, no.
What was the pro and con discussion at the beginning, like when you're talking to your staff about, hey, I think we need to do this?
There weren't a lot of cons because, it was a little bit of a struggle just with what our guys were. We were having trouble scoring, and it's not. Believe me, it's not miracle salve. It's not answered all our questions, but it has given us a little more direction. It's probably helped Tevin Mack some because of his speed. He's an outstanding cutter and moves. I think it helped him a little bit. That's part of the reason why his 2-point percentage has gotten better. It's probably taken a little pressure off of Al, and his turnovers have gone down because he doesn't have the ball quite as much. So it's been a good addition, and it's not something we do all the time, but it's been a good addition. It's been a good way to give our team some rhythm.
I should know this, but can you go through the chronology again of Chase Hunter's injury sort of story there?
Yeah, if I can remember it, and I'm not very good at all that. He just, at some point he's just complaining of his foot, foot bothering him. He's got extremely flat feet, and he's had insoles and orthotics, whatnot, to try to deal with it. And I can't remember what game it was. It was really bothering him after one of the games, and we've kind of had we were watching it a little bit, and they went and looked at it, said it was a stress reaction, and said it's going to be painful some, but give it some time. He can play. They feel like when it doesn't hurt, he can play. But if it hurts, you need to shut him down for a while. And I don't know off the top. You'd have to go back and look like what games. I do remember. It was bothering him by the time we went out to Vegas, and it was bothering him some in the Detroit game. I think the Detroit game, I do remember it was bothering him. We shut him down for a couple days. He played in the TCU game and helped us win. And we had a day off in between, and then we played Colorado, and he didn't feel like he could go. And remember, it was really kind of a blow because he's a good athlete. He's a good penetrator. He's a good defender. He helps us. He helps our athleticism. And obviously we don't have Clyde at this point, so we don't have Hemingway at this point because Hemingway's out with the sprained ankle, so we're a little limited. And really, he's a better secondary ball handler than Curran. And so when he doesn't play, you basically have Al and Curran. That's really it. John's a good player, but he's a wing. Dribbling is not his forte yet. Dribbling and decision making and all those things. And so, he couldn't play. He sat a little bit longer. I know he tried to come back for the South Carolina game. And somewhere around that time, he came back after sitting out a little while, and struggled, and really probably was not fair to him because I don't even remember if he practiced. I think he practiced the day before South Carolina, and then he tried to play in the game, and he was poor, and his foot was still bothering him quickly thereafter. And so then we shut him down, and we brought him back and tried again after sitting out a couple more weeks. And he played 9 or 10 minutes in 2 or 3 games, but it's still just painful, and so we've shut him down for the year.
When you think back to some of those losses earlier in the season, do you gnash your teeth and say, how did we lose that game, or do you think it's just a different team?
Yeah, the competitor in me is pissed off, and how did we lose that game? When you go back and really look at it, there's probably more reasons than reasonable reasons for some of your poor performance. That, and some of it's credit to the other team. A lot of people look at the Yale loss and think it's a bad loss. I think they're, 50 or something in the net. Like, Yale's really good. They have good players. Their 2 inside guys are, as good as any ACC guys we face. And they have a really good guard, and we struggled to score. And so that game, I understand why it happened. Our team probably wasn't in a great place, and we're playing a good team, and they outplayed us. The Virginia Tech game was it was hard. I thought we controlled most of the game, and young guards played poorly in the end of the game, and we lost the game. And to be honest, we didn't execute down the stretch, and they made some plays and beat us. But that's one that probably slid away from us with young, inexperienced backcourt that made a couple poor decisions and poor shots and poor plays. And that happens. That's part of it's our first college game. And obviously the Miami game at home bothers me because we controlled the game. And again, we had some poor decisions, poor guard play at the end. Al even fouled Chris Lykes dribbling across half court to call timeout. It just, he's made a couple tough plays. Clyde had a couple bad plays at the end of that game, and we kind of gave the game back. But a lot of the games, I thought we played very well against Colorado. I really thought we outplayed them. Our lack of depth, we wore down a little at the end. But if you go back and watch the film, Colorado's a top 25 team, and we have the lead for most of the game, and we just weren't quite good enough to finish. And in fact, we call a timeout and run a sideline play, down 1 or 2, and we throw the ball. We run the play right, and John Newman's coming off a screen, and we want him to shoot it, and he doesn't shoot it. And then option 2 is to throw it into Amir, and he kind of freezes, and he doesn't throw it into Amir, and he throws it back to Al, which is not a good option at the end with no, Al has to throw up a bad shot. And it's just, but that's, that's what happens in year. John Newman didn't play much last year. The most points he ever scored in a game was 6. So this year's team, there's so much growth that we've had, first of all, in a positive. John Newman's, we want him to be a more consistent player because he shows signs of the Louisville game. He shows signs of playing well like a Duke game or a North Carolina game. But then there's a lot of games when John Newman scores 7, 8, 9 points and takes 5 shots, and we're in the film session showing him, like, John, what? Marquise Reed isn't here. You can't take 5 shots. You're playing 28, 32 minutes. Like, you got to take 10 shots. Like, you got to be more aggressive. And trying to convince him. And that's why he didn't shoot the ball at the end of the game. Is like,
same as at the end of the Notre Dame game?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Another great example of he's looking around, and it's like, John, there's nobody to look around to, buddy. The other guys are looking at you. Like, go make the play. Yeah. You might miss, but that's okay. Go try. Go make the play. Be aggressive. And convincing him to take another step as a player, and probably he's a year away from that. He's not quite ready. And but that's what this team is right now. We don't have that guy. We lost a lot. We lost 4 good starters and our top 3 scorers, and unfortunately, Hunter, John, and Trey didn't play a lot as freshmen, and so there's 3 more inexperienced guys, and so it's a year where you're kind of putting it all together, and when our team puts it together, we can be really good and we show signs, but there's also a lot of growth that we're dealing with and confidence issues that a lot of people wouldn't expect some of our players to have, that our players have them. Like, they're not, and that's the hardest thing to coach and to give somebody confidence is, hey, man, we believe in you. We want you to be aggressive, play through these mistakes, go do what you got to do, and getting kids to understand that. The funny thing is Alex Hemingway doesn't play like that. For whatever reason, Alex Hemingway kind of shoots with no fear. He shoots with tremendous confidence, and I think you see that. I mean, one of the shots he made against Louisville, raising up out of the corner with McMahon right in his face, that was an extremely high-level shot, and he's guarded, but he never thought about doing anything but shoot. It's just, it's a different mentality. He has that right now. And but that's rare. Most kids don't. Most kids, John Newman is working through that. A lot of other guys are working through that. And, the crazy thing about Alamir Dawes is he has more confidence and bravado in some ways. Now, the problem is sometimes he uses that confidence and bravado to make an aggressive play when that's not the play that should be made. In the first game against Virginia Tech, we call a play, and the guy goes under a little ball screen with him, and he just shoots it. No passes. There's 2 minutes to go in the game. It's his first college game. I never would have, as a college player, thought of doing that.
Yeah.
And most of the guys on our team wouldn't have. And after the game, when I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Coach, he went under the screen." And I'm like, yeah, I get it. He went under the screen because nobody shoots that shot. There's 25 seconds on the shot clock. We're trying to run this play for Amir. You don't shoot that out. Like, it's different. Like, if he went under and there's 18 minutes to go in the game and you just made a shot, okay, like, I get it. But not with a minute 45 to go and we need this is an important possession. Like, it's your first college game, buddy. Like, I love you, but you're not option 1 right now.
Right.
He doesn't know any better, but that's his confidence. I'm going to make the shot. Like, I want the shot. And so you love that about him, but also that hinders some of his understanding of what it is that we're really trying to do. And really, for his whole life, he's probably been the guy to take the shot. And so our bench was like shocked. Now, the crazy thing is he did it about 3 games later too. And it's like, wait a minute now. Like, we've already coached this, once. Now we're going to coach it again. But that's where we are with young players. Is you're coaching repeat mistakes, and that's the part that is frustrating. Things that you've already talked about, discussed, shown on film, walked through, talked, practiced. So there's a lot going on.
It seems like you really, though, like the spirit and the cohesion
Unbelievable.
and the unselfishness of this group.
Yeah, this group is, there's a youthful exuberance that comes from this group. And it started in Italy. And, the one thing that happened with this team that's been different, and, no disrespect to the older guys, but to be honest with you, like the Jerome Blossom games their 5th year, and even the Marquise Reeds and the Elijah Thomases and Shelton Mitchells and all those guys that are really good players, when they get to the end of their career, their 5th year, like, they've seen it all. They've been through most of it. Like, they can be a little more challenging to coach sometimes. They don't listen quite as well in terms of they're not quite as eager. Sometimes there are outside people in their lives with other agendas that you're dealing with, because now you're talking about professional basketball and this, that, and the other. And so you're managing a lot. And that can be challenging. When you get a new group like this group with 7 new players, even the 2 grad transfers, Tevin Mack and Curran Scott, are coming in, and like initially it's like, how do I fit in? You know what I mean? I don't know what Clemson basketball is like. I've had an experience at Alabama or at Tulsa, and now what's it going to be like here? And I need to fit in. And so the best way to fit in is to do what the coach says, and to be a good teammate, and to have energy, and to be positive. And those guys did that. And then when you're a young guy and you're a new guy coming, you're a freshman or you're a transfer and you're coming to a new place, it's the same thing. Man, I just don't want to mess up. Like, how does this work here as a freshman? What does coach expect? What does he want? And then everybody then looks at an Amir Sims who's been in the program, or a John Newman or a Hunter Tyson, and like, what's this like? What are we supposed to do? And so now there's natural people to look and develop leadership skills. You know, Clyde Trapp obviously was part of that until he got hurt. And immediately this cohesion develops. And then you take your team and you go to Italy and you put them 4 in a room, and they're, you know, we're staying there for 2 weeks and we're competing, and you're winning a bunch of close games and having this wonderful experience, and all you're thinking about is team and winning and fitting in and let's have fun, and all of a sudden we're playing for a gold medal, and nobody on the outside can get to them. There's no outside distractions. And so this wonderful bond develops. And it only has to be there for 3 weeks, and that's kind of what it was. And you come back and it's, hey, these guys are different. Like, it's a different scenario. The energy feels different. And so we start practices and guys are excited, and, you know, you're wanting to learn, and we're going to build on this gold medal. And, you know, it's unfortunate we still don't have Jonathan Barry, we don't have Clyde, we're going to get those guys. But then other things happen and other injuries develop. And when we struggled in December, and in the media I said it several times, it's not for lack of effort. These kids are giving us everything they have. They've been incredibly coachable. They want to do well. They want to please. There is a sense of Tiger pride. Like, our kids we're trying to instill this in the basketball program, this pride in our program and our team and what we're about and who we are, and Clemson basketball, and you know, they feel it, and they're trying to do it, and they're disappointed when they don't, and they feel like they let people down when they don't. And because of that, you know, we've been able to stick with it, and we just kind of hang in there and keep battling. Obviously, that's our whole model of Clemson grit, you know, to persevere through things. And, you know, this group has been fun because of that, and there is a tremendous spirit within this team that probably has played a role in us having some of these upsets and winning some of these close games, and these kids continuing to battle. Now, we still have a lot of the issues and scabs and warts in our games, and we still have some confidence issues, and we still have young guards that make bad decisions, and physically it's still a challenge for us in most games. Most games we're the smaller team. Like, when Trey's not on the floor, we look like a mid-major team. And so we have to really execute. And so when we don't, and when we're not cohesive, we're not going to win. And our guys kind of know that. We've got to really be together, stay connected, and execute at a high level to win these games. But when we do, we're very, you know, it's a powerful feeling that permeates through your team.
Harris Flooring has been a major part of the facilities enhancements over at Clemson, not just with athletics, but also at the university level. And we are thrilled that they are a part of the Dubcast as a sponsor. Since 1947, the Junkins family and Harris Flooring have provided a unique shopping experience through value in their services, developing the right product solutions, and delivering on their promises. To check out some reviews on their work, just go to their Facebook page, Harris Flooring America. Rave reviews, just first class all the way. Phone number 864-642-6183. If you're a business owner and your business involves credit card processing, you need to reach out to Tandem Innovative Payment Solutions. A lot of different ways that Tandem can improve your bottom line by shaving off some of those expenses. In addition to processing credit card payments, Tandem also manages inventory, schedules staff, tracks sales, gains insight into customers, and gets transaction reports. With Tandem, you're not a number, you're a neighbor. Learn more about Tandem at tandempayment.com. that spirit, sort of the youthful nature, how helpful is it when you've lost 6 or 7 and you got to turn around and play NC State, or you've lost 3 in a row and you got to turn around and go up to Pitt?
Yeah.
It keeps you from getting, an emotional pitch.
As we talked about earlier, you got to remember that these kids get past some of that quickly. Right? So, like, in their minds, they can't remember. We've lost 3 in a row? Really? You know what I mean? And that's why, like, as a coach, you're struggling with, hey, every once in a while, guys, I don't like the tone of this. I don't like I don't like the spirit of our practice. I don't like our effort. I don't like our lack of communication. Like, we have lost 3 in a row. Like, let me remind you, like, this has to be, we got to get this figured out. Like, it's not going to change on its own. We change it. We have to decide to change our behavior and attitude. And so that line has been used in practice a few times as a reminder that, like, hey, we have lost 3 in a row. We've won 2 in a row. Great. But, like, that doesn't help us the next game. We got to play. And so kids get past things quickly. Like, they're, and sometimes that's what I'm telling you is you want to remind them, like, hey, guys, like, pretty important game here now. Like, we got to get this one. Like, we got to be ready. We got to be, and they have been, because they want to be. Our guys are in here all the time shooting extra and working on free throws, and they want to be good players. They want to do well. They want Clemson to do well. And because of that, I think it has helped us when we've struggled to kind of hang in there and just, all right, coach, we're going to try this now. Let's make an adjustment, and they believe in what we're trying to teach, and let's go with it.
You guys were 19 of 83 from 3 over the 3-game losing streak, 22 of 45 in the last 2. Were they getting the same shots in those 3 games? It was just they just weren't making them, or was there any refining of? Other than Hemingway, the obvious answer.
Well, that's part of it is a guy making shots. Amir not playing in the Notre Dame game affects us offensively. It just does. I think he leads us in assists. Like he had 6 assists and 5 assists maybe this week. And so when he's not out there, that's trouble for our team. Like he's a difference maker beyond making some baskets. We play through him. But that's only one game. I'm sure the quality of our shots was a little bit better. Some of it is our defense in both games was outstanding. And so now we did get a few transition baskets to get John Newman going. It's crazy, but even though John Newman had 23 points, he was 7 for 9. He still only took 9 shots. Like, John, 2 of those are fast breaks where you have to shoot because it's transition. Like, so really in the half court, you took like 6 shots. Like, come on, man, we got to find more ways to like score. You know what I mean? Like, and so some of it's execution. Some of it is missing shots. Who knows? Maybe Alex Hemingway making a shot or 2 makes it look like the basket's bigger, and now other guys shoot with more confidence. I do think there is something to that. I do think that, when guys are struggling and their teammates are struggling and we're missing some, the basket can get small, especially on the road when you're in an environment where it's loud. And, the crazy thing was the Virginia game, we played a very poor first half, and I would give most of the credit to Virginia. I thought their defense was outstanding. I thought our offense was average at best, and we struggled and didn't coach them very well. And I apologized to our guys after the game. I felt like we didn't help them enough in the first half. Now, we made a couple small adjustments in the second half, and it helped. And we scored 30 points. I think we outscored them 30-25. And when you go back and look at those clips, we had 4 shots to take the lead or tie late, and they were all pretty good shots, and we didn't make any of them. And it's like, you got to make one.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other I mean, at the end of the day, it's about players making plays, and your players got to make that shot to win the game. And we were there and we didn't do it, and hopefully we learned from it. But the first half of that game in particular, I can tell you that the coaching to help our guys in that game was not very good.
How much? I guess. What's your evaluation of Hunter Tyson? I guess.
Yeah. Obviously, like a lot of our guys, it's just there's an inconsistency there, and he's in a little bit of a rut right now. These last couple of games, and a lot of it, is as simple as the corner three he had the other day that went all the way around and out, and to a guy that's what he's kind of trying to do for your team in one way, and it doesn't go down. And he's in a little bit of a mentally probably not as strong as we'd like him to be right now, because he's really a pretty confident kid. That's demoralizing for him. I still think he can be a good player. I think he's going to have a good finish to the season. It's unfortunate he's been sick at the beginning of this week, so he's not getting any work in. But, it's a long season, and he's in a little bit of a tough stretch. I think there was a couple games earlier, the Wake game for sure. He had an outstanding game at home. I just think that he and John and Trey, those guys, they played limited minutes last year, and so they're trying to figure out how to be good players at this level. And some games it's still hard for them, and they're sophomores, and Trey is on a little bit of an uptick. Having gotten to play a little more against Notre Dame. Made a couple solid plays. He's made a couple more solid plays. He made a couple of defensive errors in the Louisville game that he's got to get past. They were mental errors, nothing physical about it. And so those two guys, they have to be better. And if they're better, our team takes a drastic step forward. Because I don't know that we're 1 through 5 better than that many teams that we play. In fact, I would argue probably right now, 1 through 5, we don't win very many. But if we get 7, 8, 9, 10 playing well, now we got a chance to beat you. And our 7, 8, 9, 10s have gotten better. And that's how we have to, I think, be successful here.
I know that with Hemingway, his physical stature or lack thereof brings some liability out there, but given how good he's looked shooting the ball,
correct.
How much do you now reevaluate? Okay, how much more do we need to get him out?
Yeah, I think I do think there's a law of diminishing returns. And I think people don't see that he's giving up some baskets to go along with his baskets. The Notre Dame game, he struggled a little bit on some things. And so I think him playing what he's been playing here recently is pretty good. I think it's one of those deals where he kind of can sneak into the game a little bit, get a couple shots off, and then we kind of play off of him. There's no question he gives us continued direction and in terms of helping to run some things through him and direction to screen for him, and he gives confidence to other players, and so that's been good. And again, if he continues to play well, hey, those numbers may inch up, but he's been playing 16, 18. That's a pretty good amount right now. Physically for him to hang in there, it's hard. It'd be hard for him to play a lot more than that in some games because of the pace of the game. Some games when it's a slow game, maybe. But right now that's probably a good number for him, and he's, we like it because he's being efficient with his shooting, and that's what we need.
I know you said it's never going to be easy or pretty with this bunch, but there was a 4-possession stretch there against Louisville after they cut it to 10. I guess under 10 minutes in the game that were.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that it's not going to be pretty or any of that. I'm telling you right now, the 5 minutes or the last 6 minutes of the North Carolina game, that was some high-level execution.
Yeah.
I mean, the backdoor cuts we ran and the plays we had and the reads our kids made and the execution of the passes. That was why one of the reasons I was so proud is just to watch your team in a game like that with everything that's over our heads. And all week, that's all my kids get asked about. That's all I get asked about. And we get asked about it in the summer. You know what I mean? And if you happen to be in North Carolina, you might get asked about it at a recruiting event, or, somebody's going to make a jab to you. And even an alum may say something to you out of good spirit, like, hey, I'm from Greensboro, man, I can't wait. Can you guys please beat the Tar Heels for us? I mean, like, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me over the last 10 years, pretty good. And so my point to that was to win that game and the way that we won it by executing so well. And because we really didn't play great in large portions of the game. And to be honest, North Carolina is a hard matchup for us. They're big. And so their size is a problem for us. But we just kind of hung in there. And obviously we got a couple turnovers, but to make the last play, execute our play that we ran to tie the game, and then to execute in overtime, like as a coach, man, unbelievable joy, not just to end the streak, but to end the streak with your team on the visiting court, executing at an incredible level. That was a huge sense of pride. And so my point to you is, no, this team, we can execute, and we can show we can show, like, we can play. And again, Amir allows us to do some different things that open the basket up, and his ability to pass the ball. But what we struggle with is, like, we can't just throw it to Eli at the end of a shot clock and Eli can bail us out with a nice hook. Or we miss a shot and Eli grabs the offensive rebound and sticks it in. We don't have any of that, or very little of that. And so we have to make shots. We have to execute precisely. We have to change some things and constantly look to surprise teams and kind of pull something that maybe somebody hasn't seen. And we can't just throw the fastball. But when we do that at a high level, it's really pretty good basketball, and it's fun to watch because it is different. It is more passing. It is more cutting. And so, yes, there are times like in the Louisville game where we showed some, played some wonderful basketball, better than some other years here for sure. But that's not easy to do over 40 minutes, and especially with a lot of young players. And then that's part of why with the rhythm and, offense is about rhythm and flow and timing. And when you have so many injuries and you're constantly not sure who's playing and how many guys we have and who's in, who's out, and this guy's back, and that's not working. What is working? That makes it hard. And one of the things that we're hopeful of is now that we kind of know, like, hey, Chase is out, Jonathan Bear's out. All right, who's in? Okay, these are the guys that are in. Now we can kind of plan accordingly and hopefully play well here down the stretch.
Happy to have Founders Federal Credit Union on board as a sponsor with us. If you've been to a sporting event in Clemson, you've probably heard about Founders already. They are the official credit union partner of the Clemson Tigers. In addition to that, all Clemson faculty, staff, and students are eligible for membership as well as IPTAY members. Matt Gross is a proud Clemson alum and the vice president for the Clemson market for Founders Federal Credit Union. Matt's office is located beside the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Old Greenville Highway in Clemson. For more information, go to foundersfcu.com. If you didn't have that Italy experience, I think you won 4 games.
Yeah.
4 of them were really close. Yeah. Are you able to execute in clutch situations the way you did in Chapel Hill, the way you did with 10 minutes left in Louisville?
Great question. Hard to say. I do think that experience has helped our team. The TCU game, we were down 15 with 7 minutes to go and found a way to win. And one of the things that I kept saying in the huddle, we've done this before. We did this in Italy. Now, it wasn't quite that drastic, but we'd had a come from behind win, and our guys kind of, they started talking about it. Then we come in for the next time out, and they're saying it because now the lead is from 15 to 9. Just like Italy, let's keep it going. You know what I mean? So, yes, there's no question that trip has played had a invaluable experience with this team. I mean, it's invaluable what that meant, and directly related to basketball and otherwise, obviously.
There's momentum toward allowing student athletes to transfer without penalty the first time. The ACC got behind it yesterday. Just curious how that would affect basketball. Your job.
Yeah. I don't think we know. It would have an effect for sure, especially like if you think about now, are you saving scholarships for mid-major players that are really good? And instead of recruiting high school kids, you're trying to go get a proven college kid who can play right now. That's, as a guy who coached at mid-major basketball, I think it was 16 years before I came here. There definitely would be guys on my team that would have left me to go to a high major school who were good enough to play there and play well. And that's so I like my worry is more for that, is I feel bad about that. And obviously we're going to have legislation, and we kind of already do, with tampering, and you're not allowed to tamper with. But like the problem is the kids at that level are going to contact you while they're still playing in their season for the other person. Like especially if their team isn't great, or if they're just okay, or they're not having a great experience, or what, even if they are. Some of those kids are just, it's kind of what the grad transfer has done, is it's allowed some kids an opportunity to do something they never got to do, which is like, hey, I want to go play at the highest level. I want to play in the Big Ten. I want to play in the ACC. I want to see how I stack up. Or I just want that experience. I want that lifestyle for a year. I want to play in front of 10,000 people and 15,000 people, So it'll have an impact. How do you adjust to it is a big question going forward, and what does that mean for the rest of college basketball? There's going to be some challenges.
That's all I got, man.
That was a lot.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, always good to get something beyond just the little 10-minute press conferences going into a game, after a game. So really appreciate Brad Brownell for opening his schedule up and himself up. Thanks to our 7 sponsors of the Dubcast for helping make all this happen. But most of all, thanks to all of you for making this a part of your weekly listening routine. We'll be back next week. Everybody have a great rest of the week and be safe. Cheers.